the thing that we've both been playing, you more so than me, because I've just been chipping away at it slowly, is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which came out literally a month ago today that we
the day I left,
which is crazy to me. Crazy that it's been a month since all of that started. Oh, look at that. You're using the same sword as me.
Nice.
This game is gigantic
It's massive.
in a way that I wasn't expecting.
No.
I knew it was going to be open world. I did not expect... I mean, I'm in the grasslands, Did you ever play Dragon Age Inquisition?
No.
Okay, so in Dragon Age Inquisition, there is a starting area, which is like... Because Dragon Age Inquisition is what I assume very similar in structure to Rebirth, in that you've got open world hubs, essentially.
Okay.
And once you move on from one, you can't come back to it.
Okay.
Or can, I don't know. So Inquisition was similar. So there was the very first open world hub was called the Hinterlands. And it became like a running joke that people refused to leave the Hinterlands because they just tried to like get everything and anything they could done there before moving on. So there were players who were spending like 40 hours in what was essentially the tutorial area. And that's like to me a failure in design, because the game should really be like, you should fucking move on from this. Like, you haven't even established the Inquisition, which is the namesake of this game. Like, sort of thing. But as soon as I entered the grasslands in Rebirth, I got immediate hinterland vibes. I was like, this is the beginning of the story, and there is so much to do here.
It is.
So I'm like, should I move on? Should I just focus on the main story? Should I do all these little markers on the map? What did you end up doing there?
Because I'm a big Final Fantasy VII fan, being someone who played the original in its heyday, I want to do everything this game has to offer. Of course. I will play every mini game. I will do every side quest. I don't care how long it takes me. Like, I want to enjoy all of that. So I did everything in the grasslands. And at time of recording, I'm in the next area. So if you're watching the video feed, it's Junon.
Is this Junon?
This is Junon, yeah. It's like the Junon open world part of the game. And I've just about ticked everything off. So if you want just raw time, 20 hours to tick off both those open worlds. That's and wild. Do the chapters in between. It's a lot of content, but I mean, to just not be clear with you, to alleviate any worry you might have about like, oh no, if you move on, you can't come back. You can go back to past areas.
Okay, that's quite nice.
Yeah,
okay.
Like you do. I think it's a side quest or something you do, and then you unlock the means to travel back and forth. And I assume that will carry through most of the game, where you can go back to past areas. So if you're worried about like, oh god, like am I going to miss anything? Like, don't. You can move on, do some main quest, come back, whatever. But I'm ticking off all the side quests, and I think each area, and remember, I've only done 2 of, I don't know how many there are. I assume there'll be quite a bunch. Each area has like 5 side quests over and above the main whatever objectives, and they take a couple hours to do. And yeah, it's I think, just to go back to what you started with, this game is massive, to the point where I think every 5 minutes, and I'm not even joking, I just say to myself, like, how is this game real? Because like remake, we knew, okay, they did Midgar, but Midgar is like, it's one place, right? And even then they made it seem so much bigger than like the original Final Fantasy. But I think I speak for myself and many other fans who are like, yeah, but how does it translate to the open world? Like, surely Midgar is like a lucky break. It's a singular area. Obviously they're going to make it, so detailed, whatever. But I found that from what I've played, that they just I don't know how they've done it. This game is huge, and it feels like there's just so much life in every area you walk in. Calm is a good example. The opening town.
The opening city. Yeah. It's
fantastic. My god! Like in the base game, the original game, Calm is like, it's a town you pop into, and then you do that whole story beat where you see Cloud with Sephiroth back in Nibelheim, and you move on from Calm. Like, that's it. It's honestly this like sleepy little town, in this game, the moment they let you walk around the town, I was just like, holy shit, it's like this huge sprawling city filled with people, and I'm like, if this is the first town, like,
and lots of cool conversations between all the people you walk past.
Yeah, and even I was just like, if this is the first town, and I know it's a small, sleepy town, like, what's it going to be like when I get to actual Junon, like, which is this massive city, Costa del Sol, like this beachside town, the Golden Saucer, which is like this entertainment resort. I'm like,
I've heard a lot about Costa del Sol. I'm excited to get there.
Yeah, but I'm just like thinking, I haven't seen anything, thank goodness, like spoilers, whatever. I'm just like, those I know are like bigger areas. How does that translate into Rebirth? And sorry to hog the mic, but we're even just you talking about the conversations, like I stand by what I've said with Remake, that these Final Fantasy games, they nail the feeling of a city being alive. I get it. Even though people say the same thing over and over again when you run past them, the fact that they're like literal dozens of people all doing their thing and like having conversations, it doesn't feel empty. Like the towns feel alive and bustling. And I'm like, I can't tell you many games other than like a Cyberpunk, for example, where it feels like, oh my God, like I'm in the city at the moment. It's unreal.
I think it's even beyond like a Cyberpunk, because I remember when Cyberpunk was first being shown to press at E3, they made a really big deal about like, oh, every NPC has like a routine. They are living a life. They are, if you follow, like I distinctly remember this, they're like, if you follow an NPC throughout the day, you'll see them go about their day. And I'm like, that's nice. But when I eventually played the game, what I encountered was walking past a lot of very identical looking NPCs, because like the randomization on offer there was quite bad.
Yeah.
But they were not talking. They were not interacting. They were just people that walked by. So Final Fantasy's approach of having less people around but denser feeling cities with people that are engaged in actual conversations about particular topics, it fleshes out the city around you. Like I know that Calm has the small district where people are selling lots of sweets, because that seems to be a thing that is popular to that town. Yeah. I had a bit of a chuckle that one of the voice lines was like, 0-calorie sweets here, and I'm like, come on, is anyone in this world actually caring about like their calorie intake right now? Like, but it's like little moments like that bring like a smile to your face, because they're just like interesting and you know, like memorable in many different ways. So yeah, I fully agree with you in that. I think that's where the strength was in Remake, especially when you got to what was the district? The casino district, or
like the entertainment district
entertainment district, yeah. Like when you got there, it was like so bustling and so cool. So the open world aspect of this is what's interesting to me, because it is like they have their own take on like the Ubisoft towers. You know what I mean? Like you unlock a tower and it shows points of interest around you. And there's little open world activities or short and brief, which I think are really cool. It's like, analyze this crystal, or fight this enemy with like specific objectives attached to it, or repair chocobo stops. So that's all neat. And I appreciate that you can fast travel almost anywhere on the map without restriction. Like you don't have to you don't have to have done a certain thing or have a certain item to fast travel. I think that makes getting around the map so much better, especially in the wake of Final Fantasy 16, which did not have that, where you could only travel to specific ruins and then you just had to fucking run around to like specific parts of the map. I appreciate this approach a lot more. So yeah, I mean, I'm only like 5 hours in. I'm still getting the hang of the party dynamic. I like that you can switch between. I've only got 5 party members at the moment. I'm almost certain that's going to change, knowing certain characters are missing currently. But I like being able to switch between pre-made party configurations on the fly. So I can have like Aerith or Tifa, or I can then have Barrett and Tifa, or Red 13 and Aerith, or like just ready to go and switch them outside of battle. I'm still with Tifa and Aerith. I'm not entirely sold on Aerith on this game. I felt like she was super, super strong in Remake and like indispensable. But here, I don't know. I think Tifa's probably the best character to play as still.
Or whatever.
And what's your composition? Oh, Red. Okay, fair enough. Red is pretty cool.
No, so it's funny because I'm playing kind of like after having played my first playthrough of the game. We all know spoilers that Aerith dies in the original. So any time I played Final Fantasy VII after it, I was like, I will have her in my party because I'm not going to have
just
her forever.
until that moment.
And I just really love Red. So I'm running with my original. It's predominantly Red and Aerith.
Interesting.
Man, I'm very interested to know how. I mean, we know how Yuffie plays because we've had the DLC. But I'd love to know how the other characters play in this game. Like, how have they translated into this modern retelling of this game?
Yeah.
I love it.
Do you want to talk a bit about so the big change here, which I just played Intermission just a few weeks ago in prep for this Yuffie stuff, and I never realized that they sort of started playing around with synergy abilities in that DLC, but it's been expanded upon like greatly in Rebirth, and that's kind of the core mechanic that has been added to the combat.
So
how do you feel about it?
I mean, I don't know how much you've dabbled with it yourself. I mean, because you're still pretty early days. I think it's interesting. Still also, I mean, this sounds ridiculous. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm 20 hours in, but also in terms of the overall game, like, I'm still early days, if that makes sense. Like, I've still got a lot of content to get through, still a lot of stuff to unlock. So
this is like double the time of Remake. This is like an 80-hour game as opposed to 40.
I'm still, like, the synergy abilities, I'm still figuring them out. But they are very cool in that they give effects to your party. Like, for example, if you do a certain attack with Cloud and Red, like, you can extend their ATB gauge up to 3 for like a certain time, whatever. Or there are other effects where I think, like, you do a synergy, your MP cost is 0 for the rest of the fight or whatever. But what's interesting is building up to these synergy abilities, you have to cast spells or do things. Like, you have to expend ATB bars
on certain abilities.
On certain abilities to, like, build up a whole separate gauge as well. So it just adds, like, I think Remake already had a level of complexity to it. This just adds like another layer to it. And it's interesting, I know I'm diverting a bit, but you mentioned the difficulty in the game, saying like it's a bit easy, which is fair. Like, I think I haven't really hit my head against the wall unless I've done like some of the summon fights maybe too early before I've analyzed.
Yeah, those summon fights are brutal.
But can I tell you where this game really shines, and I still don't know if I'm going to do it maybe one day, is if you play it in hard mode. So I platinum
after you finish the game,
7 Remake because, well, I wanted to platinum it, but one of the trophies was you have to replay the whole game on hard mode, and I was like, man, like that's an annoying trophy, but I like the game enough that I'm going to do it. And I found with hard mode that really, really, really made the combat system shine, and it forced you to learn it because then it was no longer just this thing of like, yeah, I guess I can attack and like cast some spells and do whatever. That was like, okay, now, like, what is the weakness of this enemy? How do I pressure them? What sort of equipment should I have? And I feel that Rebirth probably will have the same thing where, like, I'd love to play it in hard mode. I don't know if I will, but
another 80 hours, yeah.
But like, how do synergy abilities play into that? Because again, combat's completely different. It's like, how heavy do I have to rely on my synergy abilities? Whereas now it's like it's like fireworks. It's a nice to have, looks cool, but I'm not like dying to use an ability, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's why I was talking about the difficulty in Discord, is not because I think like the easy nature of it is taking away from it. I think it's because I want to engage with the synergy stuff a lot more, but the battles aren't lasting long enough for me to get there, because the synergy abilities often require like 2 or 3 abilities from each character involved in the ability itself, to have been played out in the battle. And usually by the time you've done even half of that, you've killed every enemy. So like, you don't even get the chance to build up that gauge. And I feel like I'm missing out on a lot of potential complexity because, you know, I'm never in the position where I'm like, okay, what synergy ability do I need here? Do I need the unlimited MP one? Do I need an additional ATB gauge? Do I just need this specific amount of damage on one enemy? And, you know, the only other difficulty option you have is called adaptive. And I'm not entirely sure what that does. Like, I don't know if it adapts every enemy to your current level, where, you know, in the open world, they might have fixed levels and you're just like blowing past them because you're like 3 or 4 levels above them. It could be, but yeah, I've heard anecdotally that it can like bridge that problem where like it does require a bit more complexity to get around. But like you said, the summon battles are incredibly difficult. Like you have to pick your party and your materia correctly to tackle them. And I think some of the story engagements, at least the bosses early on, have definitely given me that sort of like complexity that I'm craving. It's just the open world stuff that is like
it's like
blowing past it. But again, like maybe it's a good thing, because if you're coming across random enemies so frequently in the open world, then every battle's like a 3 to 5 minute thing that you have to really think about. That's going to burn you out very quickly. So maybe it's just a good balance.
I also think it's early days for you where I think maybe in terms of design, like I don't know if I'm speaking rubbish, but maybe they've also intentionally made like the opening area just like a breeze, so people can wrap their heads around. It's like, I mean, not to say that the next area is like particularly difficult or whatever, but I've had fights where it is like, okay, I need to, you know, at least have some sort of strategy or look at what the enemy's weaknesses are, whatever, and I get to use. I came across
that yesterday in a small side quest with Kiri, we had to repair some like Mako tunnel or something. The enemy that popped up was this poisonous mushroom thing, and it fucking obliterated my party like in no time at all, because Cloud and Tifa needed to get close, and it just poisoned them into oblivion. So it's like, there's those instances where it's like I've got to take a step back and actually think about things, which I appreciate. So
again, I'm diverting the conversation. You in that area, you've done that side quest at like almost sandy area outside Midgar. People have said like, oh, there's a part there where they play Zach's theme. I'm like, where? Where?
I haven't heard that.
Is it that part, or is it the other side of Midgar? It's apparently there's like a part where, you know, obviously where Zach does his last fight, whatever, and the music just changes, and I'm like, where? I'm dying to find where the spot is. Is it on the other side of the map? I just haven't got there yet, or is it on this side?
Yeah, I need to go find that now, because I have no idea where that is. Or at least I didn't realize if it had played. Yeah.
So it's like,
I mean, spoilers for remake or intermission, I guess, but he's out there. He's doing something. He's the first person you control in the game, very briefly. Yeah, quite literally.
I was like, what is going on here?
That was interesting to me. I was like, wow, okay, they're really leaning into this angle now. Yeah,
I know.
It's going to be very interesting within the context of the game's like first chapter of you know, like Cloud recalling what happened in Nibelheim and Tifa's comment on that at the end. I was just like, oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
I do really, really love the interplay between Tifa and Aerith in this game so far.
Great.
They are so cool together. They're just like, I think, absolute best friends, and
just
I love
the synergy across. Good. I mean, again, it's funny and it's exciting because we both early days, right? And again, 20 hours. It sounds ridiculous, but that's early days in the overall story, and like you really see these moments of the party just having these moments, like Tifa and Aerith at the beginning, 100%. But like I'm also starting to see like play between Barrett and Red 13. I'm like, yes, bring on all the other party members. I want to see how they all engage with each other. I
actually like Barrett a lot in this game, because
he's great.
Like
he's
in the first game he's very hardened and very, you know, like he's got a purpose and he's got a goal and nothing is going to dissuade him from that. But here he's like, I think his belief has been shaken a little bit by what happened in Midgar, but he's still very dedicated to the job at hand. And I don't know, it's just like a bit of looseness about him that's really fun. I was asking Shani the other day, because she was watching me play, And because she's walked into the room twice now. And both times, the first time she was like, what is this? And I was like, Final Fantasy VII. And she's like watching it. I think I was in Calm then. And I made a silly joke. I was like, do you think this man with these noodle arms could pick up this sword? And I was referring to Cloud. And she was like, absolutely not.
100%
like,
not.
Probably most humans in the world could not lift that sword.
No.
I was like, yeah, that's probably fair. So then yesterday I'm playing again and I'm riding around this fucking barren wasteland on a chocobo. And she looks at it. She's like, what game is this? And I was like, it's still Final Fantasy. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, I know, it's quite different. And then I showed her red on the chocobo. She's like, that's stupid. And I was like, yeah, it is pretty stupid. It's phenomenal. I love it.
I was listening to the kind of funny review of this game yesterday because I just missed it. And I know, like Tim and them are huge Final Fantasy fans.
Massive,
and they made such a good point of like, Final Fantasy 16, one thing they missed, they compared a lot to the game because it was a recent Final Fantasy, saying like they love Final Fantasy 16, but one thing they missed was that it was very serious. It was like no room for jokes really, where it's like, no, we are the Game of Thrones of Final Fantasies. We're super serious. This is some real shit. Whereas Final Fantasy 7 and a lot of other Final Fantasies, there is an element of like, the world's going to end, but also we are going to have some ridiculous, funny shit happen. And I feel that this game they lean into that. I mean, Red riding a chocobo is like...
It's just the funniest thing on earth. It really is.
I can just imagine that the meeting that happened, we're like, cool, we're going to like talk about riding chocobos. And somebody put up their hand like, so can we have Red riding a chocobo? Like, can we show this? Are we going to show all the party members? And if we are, can we show Red riding a chocobo? And it's funny is that
looks so funny.
I know there are other moments coming up in the game where like Red is doing things when originally like it's silly. I'm like, but how will they show that in this game? I cannot wait.
No, but you're right. There is a sense of levity in this game that's like welcomed, and it's not. I don't think it's forced or put into any, situation where it's not meant to be. Like, I think in Calm when Shinra decides to like invade, and that's like the first moment where you actually get to see the grasslands for the first time. It's like your introduction to the open world. You're up in the clock tower with Aerith, and you see this shit unfolding. So you run down and you meet up with the rest of the party, and Barrett's like, where were you guys? And Aerith's like, we were on a date. And Tifa's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And it's like, guys, you realize what's happening around you? Like, just calm down. Like, it's so good. Great. It's so good. Yeah. I did ask Shani how she thinks Barrett sleeps with a gun on his hand. And she made a good point. She's like, can't he take it off? And I'm like, I don't know. I've never seen him take it off.
I think he must be able to take it off because I mean,
when he was sleeping in Calm, he was sleeping in a chair with it on.
Listen,
I rest my case.
We can get in the weeds of this game, but the fact that nobody gets under the covers for starters, gets unchanged.
Yeah, no, that's insanity.
Shower, like no, nothing. Everyone just
they're getting into bed with their outdoor clothes.
Yeah, I'm just climbing into bed and they like climb onto the bed.
Cloud sleeps with his boots on.
It's
ridiculous. Absolute mad lad.
My God.
I think lastly, the one thing I want to say is Queen's Blood fucking 100%. Rules.
I was just going to say.
What a game.
So what a game. One thing, some people, this has been like either a solid point or a sore point for people is that the number of mini games in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. And apart from it's not really a mini game, apart from the moving the vacuum cleaner around, which can go down a hole, I haven't had any issues with any of the mini games. Like I've loved them, and Queen's Blood I think is probably like the first big one people encounter, and it's a through line throughout the rest of the game because you will find other people to play Queen's Blood, and in true Final Fantasy fashion, it is a really, really good card game. Like
it's solid,
super simple, like really easy to understand. Because my thing is always
short as well. I think.
Yeah, my thing is always like, do I really want to learn like another game and the complexities? And then you play a game like, it's actually like it's really simple to understand. And as you keep playing harder opponents and you start unlocking more cards, and then you're like, oh, okay, like holy shit, this game's got depth. And I mean. Again, early days, I haven't unlocked that many cards, but I'm already seeing like, holy shit, there are some things you can do in this game, and it's wild. It's really
No,
good.
there's like early game strats that are like so useful already. Sorry, there's a catcher. And like even the early cards like start exposing some of that complexity. Like, oh, okay, this card can claim these 2 blocks, but it's also going to empower this block like on the other end of the board. But you've got to be careful because that empowers enemies too. So like you can't get reckless with that sort of thing. It's super, super good. It's a nice to and fro of like lane control, but also like space control. Like you need to use your cards wisely to not give your opponent opportunity to move, but also ensure that you have enough points within a lane to win that lane. And I think it's incredibly smart. Like the best sorts of games, like especially board games, this is essentially a board card game, like are ones that, like you said, are super simple to understand, but just have loads of mechanical depth within those limited moves. And I think Queen's Blood nails that. I mean, they've already said they're looking at the possibility of bringing it out as like a standalone game, and I would jump apart.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like Gwent became its own game eventually, but I never really got into Gwent when I played The Witcher because I found the matches took too long. This one is a complete opposite. Every time I see that marker on the map, I'm like going to play Queen's Blood. Yeah, I'm so into it. Like there's a side quest I'm pursuing now, but I lost Queen's Blood card, and I'm just like in it. I'm so into that quest. Yeah, it's a good game.
Good game, which we'll probably spend the next 3 years talking about because it's going to take
at this rate,
a long time.
At this rate, this is going to be. I mean, I played Final Fantasy 16 for like 3 months, so it's going to be similar. It's going to be similar.